Americans fundamentally have more free speech than the English. In April of 2018, here in the UK, 18-year-old Chelsea Russell posted the lyrics to a rap song on Instagram. The lyrics included the N-word. Despite having Asperger's, she got an 18-month community order. The American rapper she quoted, Snapp Dogg, sings that song, I'm Tripping, all the time. He uses the N-word. He's never been prosecuted. In October 2018, Graham Linehan, the co-creator of Father Ted, was given a first harassment warning for not using a transgender person's preferred pronouns. Over in the States, the rapper Kanye West posted a swastika along with anti-Semitic remarks on Twitter. His account was blocked, but the police didn't get involved. Back here in the UK, 19-year-old Matt Woods posted a really sick joke about Madeleine McCann on Facebook. He got a 12-week prison sentence. In 2018, Elon Musk tweeted he was taking Tesla private. The stock price surged. But it wasn't true. Investors lost money and sued. The American courts accepted it was only a joke.
What's wrong with that? Made me weep with laughter.
Fundamentally, do Americans have more free speech than we do? Let's find out. America has the First Amendment and Britain has Article 10 of the Human Rights Act. But it's not that simple. Both here and in America, our rights to free speech are not as old or as wide-reaching as you might think. And it's under threat. The USA has a constitution. The First Amendment contains the right to free speech. It looks clear-cut, but contrary to what most people think, the First Amendment doesn't guarantee free speech.
I am fired up to explain how everyone keeps getting the First Amendment wrong.
Read it again. It's only intended to apply to laws made by Congress. For 150 years, individual states had laws that prevented free speech, and they still do. In New Hampshire, teachers can't speak freely about sexism or racism. In Florida, teachers have a don't say gay law. Both Florida and Tennessee have banned books. A dozen states have laws stopping teachers talking about slavery. There's even a wave of bills targeting drag queens. Drag queens! In Idaho, art at an exhibition was taken down off the walls. Just to be clear, cross-stitch embroidery was banned. That's not free speech. The Constitution was signed in 1787, the First Amendment in 1791, yet it took 140 years for Americans to get the right to free speech at the state level. In 1919 in New York, a guy called Ben Gitlow published a communist magazine. He was arrested for encouraging the violent overthrow of the government under New York's criminal anarchy law 1902. He went to prison. He appealed, and in 1925 he argued free speech in front of the Supreme Court. He lost. They were having none of it and upheld his conviction 7 votes to 2, and off he went back to Sing Sing prison. That started the process of incorporation. Basically, the Supreme Court uses a clever legal argument saying that the 14th Amendment, the right to due process, the right to privacy, and the specific guarantee of liberty applies to the First Amendment. It's that legal argument that lets the Supreme Court strike down state laws, but only when it chooses to. The 14th Amendment is one of the most litigated parts of the Constitution. It's that clever legal argument that underpins racial segregation, the election of presidents, same-sex marriage, and of course, abortion. The Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade in June 2022, rejecting that link between the 14th and First Amendment. For all that absolute sounding language, the First Amendment in the USA is very much in the gift of the Supreme Court. The First Amendment doesn't guarantee free speech, not really, and certainly not at the state level.
You were censoring and wrongfully violating our First Amendment free speech rights.
So are we any better off in the UK? We don't have a constitution, but we've always had free speech. In the UK, we've always relied on government and kings not passing laws restricting speech.
And of course, people should be vigilant about freedom of speech.
Basically, here you can say what you want unless there's a law to stop you.
But nothing and no one is going to stop me reciting the song of the Oompa Loompas.
Then in 1998, Tony Blair incorporated the European Convention of Human Rights into English law. Having it in law arguably changes everything. It puts our right to free speech in the hands of the government. And of course, our government right now is trying to repeal the Human Rights Act. Between 1988 and 2003, under Section 28 of the Local Government Act, it was illegal for teachers to talk about homosexuality in schools. America is having the same debate now. It was a dumb law then and it didn't work. In 2009, David Cameron, who had been a staunch advocate of Section 28, apologised for a law that he then called offensive and a mistake. Right now, we do have Article 10, but just like in America, free speech is not guaranteed. The TLDR here is that the right to free speech is a relatively new thing here and in the US of A. And there's another difference. The American Declaration of Independence starts with the words, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." But it's not true. Under Title 18, Section 871 of the United States Code, it is illegal to make any threat to the president even if you can't carry out that threat. The maximum sentence is 5 years in prison and a fine of £250,000. In 1998, a sailor called Michael Rogers was in a court cell about to face a court-martial. He was having a bad day, a really bad day. He said, "F the Admiral and F President Clinton. If I could get out of here right now, I'd get a gun and kill that bee. I'm going to shove a gun up his ass." He didn't have a gun. He was in a prison cell. He was clearly blowing off steam, yet he was convicted and went to prison. Section 879 even extends that protection to former presidents and presidents-elect and vice presidents and candidates and members of their families. In fact, anybody under Secret Service protection. In the UK, of course, the head of state is the king. He was appointed by God, but I can say what I like about King Charles III and the royal family and the Prime Minister. In fact, anybody.
We're allowed to shout "you're a nonce" at Prince Andrew. That's pretty much what a constitutional monarchy means.
In January 2023, 21-year-old Harry May threw eggs at the king in Luton. In November 2022, Patrick Thewell threw eggs at the king in York. It's only a public order offence and they both got small fines. In the UK, we are all equal before the law. However, the biggest problem in the UK is our uniquely precious attitude to swearing. We have a very large population living on a very small island. We are obsessed with being polite. That's not a bad thing in and of itself, but our laws are practically Victorian. In fact, they're Victorian. The Public Order Act 1986 is used to arrest people for swearing all the time.
Mate, swear again and you'll get nicked.
I'm not allowed to swear in an abusive or threatening manner. I am allowed to use swear words as part of my dialect.
No,
if it's
you won't let me explain my point.
No, because you're chatting shit.
Right, under arrest, public order offence.
Under arrest, yeah?
Yeah, you're under arrest for a public order offence.
Our other massive problem here in the UK is the Communications Act 2003. Under Section 127, it's an offence to send electronic messages that are grossly offensive or of an indecent, obscene or menacing character. In an age of social media, that is a law that is, in my humble opinion, not fit for purpose. To be fair, the CPS and the courts are trying to keep up, and they have changed the guidelines, but it's too little and it's too slow. Chelsea Russell, the girl who posted those lyrics to Instagram, appealed her sentence and she won. Things are improving, but our laws are woefully behind and we need reform. There are problems on both sides of the Atlantic. I think this stuff is fascinating and we've only just scratched the surface. Realistically, there's more free speech in Britain and America than just about anywhere else on the planet. Freedom of speech is important, but don't take it for granted. The Supreme Court in the US and the government in the UK are perfectly capable of taking it away. Don't you bloody let them. I'm Matt Fresco, and you have the right to subscribe. This court is adjourned. What's that? Thank you for watching. Free speech, comparing free speech in America and the UK.
Fantastic. Good luck with it.
Yeah, you're right. I will need luck. That won't get any views. Thank you, though.
Augustus Gloop, the great big greedy nincompoop.